So let's light the fire, and please help me welcome to the stage Dana Frank.
Thank you. So today I'm going to talk about something I'm extremely passionate about, and that is the fact that anyone can change the narrative despite what their birth circumstances may have dictated. They can change the narrative despite the labels that society places upon them. Too many of us have been told no. We've been told no, not based on our talent, our abilities, or our potential. No, we've been told no because of our color, our race, our age, perhaps disabilities that we have, pronouns we might go by, or our family's social or economic status. I call individuals Firestarters that don't accept no. And in my book, Get Up and Get On It, A Black Entrepreneur's Lessons on Creating Legacy and Wealth, I dedicate chapter 1 to these individuals. And as I read this poem from my first chapter, I invite each of you to think about the Firestarter in your own life. Who was the first individual to pick up the baton and start the relay for change and say, I'm not accepting no? Here's the poem. A Firestarter is born with passion, drive, and vision. They don't accept the narrative at birth which they were given. The life of living paycheck to paycheck and barely getting by, waiting to collect Social Security when their time comes to die. Firestarters aren't born with a silver spoon or a trust fund, but they refuse to be invisible and have their dreams shunned. They amplify injustice, speak out and protest the unfair, so that the marginalized and those left out of the script will also get their share. Firestarters know better than to settle for less and follow the masses. I witness this tenacity, grit, and grind from behind my father's glasses. My mama's DNA, it's one of a gumbo of beauty and class. She's wise, determined, and strong. My parents have been my best teachers, giving me lessons I was blessed to receive, and now so very blessed to pass along. They taught me that success only comes before work in the dictionary, and if you don't try, you have no one else to blame. At the end of your journey, ask yourself, what will be your legacy, and how bright will be your flame? It's 1950, and my father, Gerald Frank, comes of age in his hometown of Detroit, Michigan. His options are limited because it's a time of Jim Crow laws and segregation. Now, history books have taught us that Jim Crow laws meant separate but equal. But my father knew there was nothing equal about the color of his skin dictating where he could eat, where he could work, where he could sleep, and where he could thrive. My grandfather, his name was Houston, and like his name, he was a sweet, soft-spoken man from the South. And my grandfather looked at my father and he said, son, you're hot-headed. I don't need you to ruffle any feathers. Stay in your own lane, there's less traffic. Can't you get one of those good jobs at Chrysler or Ford? Didn't you hear they're hiring? And my father looked at his peers and his friends that were getting up before day in the morning at 2, 3, 4 a.m. and putting in a double shift on the assembly line and coming home exhausted at the end of 2 weeks with barely enough of a paycheck to put a decent meal on the table. And this was not the future my Firestarter father envisioned. He was a budding drummer. So he packed his van with his dreams and his drums, and he drove as far away from Black Bottom, Detroit as he could. And even though he needed this green book, The Negro's Traveler's Guide, to tell him where his green dollars would allow him to rest safely at night, he arrived here in the Pacific Northwest. And when he saw the beauty of this landscape, he saw Mount Rainier and the Olympics and Puget Sound and Lake Washington, he said, I got to get busy, and he did. He enrolled in classes at the University of Washington. At night, he lied about his age, and he went to work playing drums in Seattle's vibrant jazz nightclubs. And on days when work was slow and tight, and money was even tighter, he created his own work, and he went downtown and he washed windows on department stores and office buildings because Firestarters get creative. And even though he hadn't been hired for the job. Once it was done, management often felt obligated to pay. One night, on a break from the bandstand, my father made an improbable decision, and it changed not only his life, but generations to follow. He was talking to a regular patron who had a home for sale, and Daddy leaned in and he said, I want to buy your house. And the guy looked at him and he started laughing. He said, you're just a black kid. You can't buy my house. And Daddy leaned in closer and he goes, I may be black, I may be broke, but I'm not broken. And they struck a deal. My father worked off the down payment. And in order to make the $48 monthly note, he rented out rooms to his fellow students from the University of Washington, long before Airbnb was even a vision, because Firestarters are visionaries. In 1954, my father's once again playing drums, this time at a local beauty contest called Miss Bronze. And when this fine woman, Mama, I know you're watching, hit the stage, in her one-piece white swimsuit and gold high heels, she eliminated the competition, won the Miss Bronze prize money, and my parents became partners because Firestarters recognized Firestarters. My mother was the second born to a family of 8 on welfare, so she knew from an early age that she had to help support her family of birth. And the remarkable feat is that my parents, for 19 years, from 1950 until 1969, purchased an apartment building every year without any bank funding because of redlining, a practice of banks not giving funding in Black communities. Today, I stand before you as the proud steward of this third-generation family business started over 70 years ago. And people often ask, how did you beat the odds and say only 12% of family businesses make it to the third generation? And I say, because I came from a family that didn't just break barriers, we shattered them. My aunt was the first African-American flight attendant that Alaska Airlines would hire and retire. My uncle is a federal judge who's handled some of our state's most notorious cases, including the Green River. And most famous is my Uncle Quincy Jones. Yesterday we celebrated what would have been his 92nd birthday, but he left us so much more than just his volume of music. He said, not 1 ounce of my self-worth is dependent upon your acceptance of me. So become a fire starter, and when you ignite that flame, may it be so bright that you blaze a trail for generations to follow. I thank you.